everyone, and welcome to the program. In recent months, Olsem Wanem has been able to cover a variety of service delivery issues, including that of transport and road infrastructure, health, law and order, and the environment, just to name a few. In this special edition of Olsem Wanem, we feature a panel discussion on the condition of service delivery in the country, an initiative of the USAID-funded Economic and Public Sector Program. The discussion asks some very pertinent questions and opinions and facts from various key people in the public sector.
The priorities for the next 5 years are basically in education, health, infrastructure, law and order, and land. As you know, we cannot address all issues, but we have to sequence and prioritize because of the fact that there are limited resources. Now, coming to the higher education sector, I take my cue from education, from the Alataw Accord in terms of execution. So I have laid out a plan for the next 3 years to execute the delivery of higher education services in the country. My challenges are basically twofold. One is to set strategic priorities within the sector. And secondly, to deal with tactical issues. My strategic priorities, the challenge in strategic priorities is basically dealing with the wide issues. Why do I have to choose this program over that program? And my tactical issues in relation to the solution. What's the solution for the problem that has emerged? And the issue is to develop the right mix of projects to address those issues.
The refocus of the EPSP and indeed the PMG group towards the subnational level at the provincial level, I think lends a lot of credence to the fact that in the provinces we are at the sub end of the delivery point. And I think with my experience being at the national level and of course having been at the implementation or the sub end of the delivery point, which is at the provincial level, I think I can bring a lot of the provincial perspective and the real challenges that we face at the provincial level to this forum. I think with proper dialogue and continued dialogue with our national colleagues and with our service providers, with our partners, and indeed the churches and the private sector that we will partner with at the provincial level.
In forums like this, it's always a comfort that we see things from a benefit of hindsight. The reason why I say this is because a question that we should be asking ourselves, it's a very pertinent question, is why was it that the system was working before and now we find ourselves like this? We find ourselves now with more educated people and yet we are going through this. And being in a forum like this. Service delivery, I would say, is consequential of the state of politics over the years. If you go back into the 1970s, the system was working. But then in the preparations for independence and so forth, something called decentralization came in because it was out of political I wouldn't say interest, but importance to the country at that time. Over the years, there has been this mix of trying to balance out decentralization and service delivery at the same time. I am not saying that those are the only reasons, but they are among the key areas to consider when we see the state of service delivery today. It's with the individual, it's with the organization, and it's with the system. So at some point, we have to start, but where do we start? The government has been talking about a review of the organic law on provincial and local level governments. Perhaps that's where we can start. And perhaps build in some things, good lessons from the last almost 40 years of independence into a law that can allow us to allow a delivery process to work well. Something that can unite the different levels of government. We have to be mindful also of the conditions of the delivery process, and that's far more important because that's for sustainability over the long haul.
I'm going to be coming from the angle of real delivery of services to the rural communities. Within the department, we have come up with a number of legislations really addressing different sectors of a family that we see as most vulnerable. We have the National Disability Policy. We have the Early Childhood Care and Development Policy. We also have the Informal Economy Policy. And we have the Women and Gender Equality Policy. But over the years, we realized that what was missing was the delivery mechanism, really. And that is why the department came up with, worked with our partners, worked with provinces and our other stakeholders, and we came up with the policy, Integrated Community Development Policy. Now, in that policy, we recognized what is available in our villages that acts as a delivery mechanism. And I think all Papua New Guineans here, if we are sitting here, we will know one communal place in our village where we call for a meeting, everybody gathers. When we call for some sort of new information, whether it's microbanking or health information, people gather in that communal place. We've not really taken advantage of that communal place where they gather. And so the strategy in this policy is that we'd like the districts to identify all those places in our villages. They must identify all those places. People must be empowered to do their conversations. Families must converse. They must identify the issues in their communities. We don't select the kind of service that goes there. They tell us the services that they require. They put out their priorities to us, first, second, third. At the national, provincial, and national level, we should be discussing how do we complement those priorities they have identified? How do we come up with an enabling environment in terms of policies and legislations that will support these concerns that have been raised? We are now in an era where our traditional cultures are having a tension with the modernity and modern cultures that are coming in. We cannot throw away one for the other, but we must encourage our communities together with us to start discussing ways in which we can blend the two. We can blend the two. We can work together to make sure that the services are really delivered according to the needs of the community.
The state of Papua New Guinea is in the business of buying goods and services for all of those people that are out there. Now, we do know that the state spends a significant amount of resources annually in buying those services and goods. The real issue is those goods and services just don't appear to be getting to the end of the pipe. Now, for those of us who work in the service delivery sector, as it were, we know that, and I think one of the earlier speakers has said it, there are issues with the system itself, there are issues with the processes involved, and in a lot of cases there are issues with the institutions that are supposed to be delivering this. I guess one final problem area is in the arrangements. We have the provincial government that is supposed to be at the front end delivering some of these services. We have the national government who in a lot of cases also competes with the provinces in delivering some of those services. And in some cases you have private sector competing with the national government and the provincial government in delivering some of those services. And in other cases you could have donor agencies competing. We are not able to find one institution that's working really well and actually doing its job and delivering everything it promises to all of these clients.
The LG presidents who are elected by law actually become beggars. They get funding based on whether or not the member, and I said it with a lot of respect to those members who are actually empowering the districts. But it's based on the parochial interest of the member, whether or not he likes the LLG presidents. And so they beg to the LLG, and they come begging at the provincial level as well.
I think Professor Governor Moore may add to that.
Thank you. Your question is in relation to it's a process issue, and funds flow through the district treasury rollout program, and it goes as far as the districts. So accountability issues should be addressed at that level, because that's where the railway ends, and then it flows on to the local level government. So I think that area can be addressed. I don't think that is an issue, so long as the funds flow through the district treasury rollout program. Other funds flow through national agencies. So you come to an agency like the Office of Higher Education, the funds are given to us, and we look after our sector. We have 29 agencies in the sector. Under PIP, we look after recapitalization and rehabilitation funds for the universities and colleges. And the funds come through us, and the tender processes, procurement is done at our service providers level through their tenders committee, and they then write back to us and say, we've identified this contractor to pay, and so therefore we go through their processes. We write the checks directly to the suppliers of materials, and we pay the contractor separately for the management fees. We don't give the funds, all the funds entirely to the contractor.
Is there another question on a different point that we could go on with? Otherwise, I'll let the panelists. Yes, there is a hand up in the back there.
My question goes to Mr. Bed. Seemingly, you challenged the former Prime Minister for the seat of East Sepik Provincial, and this puts you in a perspective of a Prime Minister at the moment at the panel. Our financial system, management system seems to be a bit distorted, or it's broken down in various circles. Allocation, budgeting, disbursement, and accountability. If you were the Prime Minister, and seemingly you see that the overall national, provincial, and district setting seems to be like bypassing one another. You select one of that, and how would you improve, and why?
I wouldn't focus so much on getting the money down. I would focus in a different area, that is, what is that money paying for? I know of roads in NCD that are getting sealed or repaired for about 10 million kina, and they're only 1 kilometer long. You can have a 8-kilometer road being done somewhere up in the highlands and chip sealed for about the same amount of money. Until you have a performance measurement system that can actually unitize all of that, whether it be in medicine, whether it be in education, like even education. We're shoving all these kids through school. Yet at the other end, when we find they're getting ready to go to institutions of higher education, they're just not good enough. So what are we paying for?
Any other member of the panel would like to go on from that? No? Okay, another question on the floor, please.
I think one of our speakers, Mr. Raphael, did mention about churches. Now, what can we learn from church-government partnership towards improving service delivery?
I've been able to do a patrol as soon as I went into West New Britain of all the LLGs, of all the villages, and I saw the critical needs of our people. But I also saw where the churches are and what the churches are doing. The partnerships that we've so often talked about at the national level are not necessarily trickling down to the provincial level, where we can be able to work closely with the churches. I think Chimbu has a very good example of how they're delivering the health services out there, where they've actually given it to the church to deliver, and their accountability process has basically come back. I think the idea there, basically for some of us, is that we want to give it to the people that know best how to deliver those services. We want to get the results.
We have existing documents, existing partnership arrangements in terms of the government of PNG and church partnership program. We also have civil society organizations and government of PNG partnership. Churches is also included as part of the NGOs there. We also have the old NGO policy, which we will have to revisit and start thinking about how we will work towards establishment of a churches ministry. I'm aware that OZ has done some research on the identification of all churches in PNG and the kind of services they provide. That is a very good research. Some of this research we do, and we just leave it lying. And government agencies, those are the documents we need to grab a hold of. We need to grab a hold of, and we need to start working from that angle, making those information also available to our provinces, our districts, and our LLGs, so that they can be aware of the kind of services that are available and the kind of services the churches provide.
Asking Olsem, now you blood talk long national government, you blood talk long provincial government, na go LLG. So suppose all this la all the line here, all long like give him Wanem kind walk him housiko, all Wanem something lo same people. Look bro you blow so why me play even triple level government lo try and it's the same line.
We have a governor plus the administrator who are trying to provide services together with the divisions in the provincial government who are trying to provide those services. And then you have the JDP BPC at the district level who's also trying to provide the same services. So we're actually already running two parallel systems, a parallel system there in the province. The capacities that we have at the provincial level, we need to sort that out.
Would the panel agree with me that strategic foresight and a good positive leadership be ingredients to improving service delivery?
In the ideal world, yes. PNG is not the ideal world, unfortunately. And you don't have many students of strategy make it to those high positions. So whilst I agree with you, we have to be more practical. And we're kind of, instead of good ideas flowing from the top down, we're trying to make them flow from the bottom up, and not very successfully.
The point, yes, strategy is very important, and leadership is very, very critical. The Vision 2050 actually shows that the direction is directionally correct, and we know where we are heading. We're hitting health, education. Health in terms of life expectancy, health, education in terms of literacy rates, and economy in terms of per capita income improvements. Those are the three core areas that are addressed in the Alatawa Accord. The main challenge in Papua New Guinea is, because we are talking about service delivery, the main challenge is that although the problem may be technical, the solution is always political.
As 2013 is by the government, our present government, as the year of implementation, would you be aware that there would be another, in your knowledge, bipartisan on the OLPG or the review of the OLPG, because it's a hindrance to the service delivery mechanism at the provincial, the LLG, the new LLG to the ward. And if the government is trying to connect that and to put the budget to where it's supposed to go this year, 2013,
you would have picked up the signals from the Deputy Prime Minister that he's been pushing this idea of reviewing the organic law, and it's long overdue. So there is a policy submission in place that is waiting for a certain time to be considered by NEC to give its approval. Ideally, there should be a public consultation process so that views should be taken from a wider spectrum of society. Let's just hope that when the organic law is reviewed or repealed, then something should come out that we should all be happy about, and especially taking on board the difficulties that we are facing at the moment.
My question would be, we have 3 layers of government in place. We have the national government, the provincial government, and now the local level governments. Now, what do you think the roles these 3 different layers of government should play in regards to funding and in regards to service delivery systems and processes? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really challenging question. I guess first and foremost, we are asking a question about a political system and a service delivery system, and we're kind of trying to combine the two. My very first response would be to separate the two. One body is supposed to be interested in making overall policy. The other body, or bodies, where we all congregate, that's where we're supposed to be delivering services. It's an issue of management. What level should the national system be interested in, or the national segment? In my view, it should be interested in levels of funding per capita, as it were, so broken down to the unit, and in measuring the outcomes. In terms of delivery, somebody else should be doing that. And in our current arrangement, you have the provinces ideally situated because they're there, they're right at the coalface. They're in the front line. Somebody should be doing all the back-end stuff, somebody else should be doing the front-end stuff. At the moment, we don't know who's doing what, and in most cases, we're all doing the same things. The reality is that by bypassing the systems and sticking money there, we're not being honest about the situation that exists down there. So you're giving them another problem. Soon we'll be jailing LLG presidents, we'll be jailing the finance officer, the district treasurers, we'll be jailing the whole lot of them. And we'll be jailing them because we gave them money. And because the environment there does not help them to use that money properly, you need to ask yourself, at a practical level, where is the right place to intervene? Should we just give the money and hope for the best? Or should we give the money and have some certainty, some plan about how we're going to measure all of these things that we're paying for?
We've talked about service delivery here today, but one of the most important things is the consistency of service delivery and the systems in place to meet that service delivery. We know, in fact, and Stephen Rafael would probably agree with me, is that the disbursements of funding from the national governments to the provinces and going downwards has always been haphazard. Last year, for example, a lot of provinces got their funding around about November. How do you expect to deliver services, right at the last month, funding coming down in the last month? The other issue, in fact, is in terms of what can, going down to the next level, LNGs and districts and all. What we know, in fact, is that DSIP funding has come, it will be, it's being front-loaded at the moment. What we've been told before, the reason why cash disbursements to provinces is not possible, because of cash flow problems. What's going to happen with the DSIP funding outlays now? Will that have a greater impact on service delivery?
Yes, I agree with you in relation to the funds coming in dribs and drabs for provinces, but I think by and large you have that kind of challenges at the national level as well. Before this government came in, the governors, the provincial governments governors were getting about 1 million kina for the provincial service improvement program. They're now getting 5 million per district. In East New Britain, the governor gets 20 million for service delivery within his province. In Eastern Islands, where they have 8, she gets 40 million. The solution to that would be for the governors and indeed for the open members to come together and pool their resources so that at least the very same people who are supposed to be getting that kind of the services that are supposed to be delivered to them can be able to draw from that same pool of money. That's in theory, and I think it's an idealist kind of situation that I'm posing here. In practice, that does not necessarily happen. As I said earlier on, we capture the budget of the districts, and probably that's about it. We don't have a say in how they spend it.
This has been Olsem Wanem. While the panel discussion highlighted the systems and processes of service delivery and the obvious failure in managing resources made available, people throughout this resource-rich country continue to miss out on vital services as we speak. We've come to the end of the program, but as always, do keep us posted on your thoughts through the address on the screen. We would be grateful for that. Till then, enjoy the rest of your viewing here on MTV.